In a crumbling manor near Bath, where debts buried pride and cruelty wore silk gowns, Jenny existed as a shadow among her own blood. No one expected her to matter. No one imagined a duke would arrive disguised as a pauper, searching not for fortune, but for something England's ballrooms could never offer him. A love untouched by greed. What he found in her quiet defiance would shatter every wall he had built around his heart. The carriage wheels churned through mud as Harry Thornfield, 7th Duke of Ashworth, stared through rain-streaked glass at the English countryside bleeding past. 27 years of privilege had taught him many things, but the weight of a title had taught him distrust above all else. Every woman who smiled at him saw only the duchy. Every conversation calculated his worth in estates and influence. He had become a sum of assets rather than a man, and the realization had turned something vital inside him cold and restless. His solicitor's voice echoed in memory. "Your Grace must marry. The estates require an heir. Parliament expects your presence. Society demands your choice." Harry loosened his cravat, the fine silk suddenly suffocating. He had watched his peers marry for advantage, watched love wither under the scrutiny of ballrooms and contracts. He wanted no part of that theatre. The carriage slowed near a posting inn outside Bath. Through the window he glimpsed a manor set back from the road, its once grand facade crumbling at the edges. Weeds claimed the drive, paint peeled from shutters hanging crooked on rusted hinges, yet smoke rose from chimneys, suggesting life persisted within those neglected walls. Something about the decay spoke to him, perhaps because it mirrored what he felt inside beneath the polished veneer of ducal perfection. He made his decision with the swift certainty that had marked his best choices. Rapping on the carriage roof, he called to his driver, "John, take the carriage to Bath. Secure rooms at the Royal and wait for my word. I will send for you when needed." "Your Grace," the older man protested, "you cannot mean to—" Harry stepped down into the mud, his expensive boots sinking immediately. He wore his simplest clothing, though even that betrayed quality in its cut. He would need to remedy that. "I mean exactly what I say. Tell no one my whereabouts. I am merely Harry now, a man seeking work." The driver's weathered face creased with worry, but he knew better than to argue when his master's jaw set that way. "Yes, Your Grace." "Simply Harry," he corrected, then turned toward the decaying manor. The transformation required little. He removed his signet ring, tucking it deep in his pocket. He rolled his sleeves and mussed his hair. He adopted the posture of a man accustomed to labor rather than leisure, shoulders slightly forward, stride purposeful but unhurried. As he approached the manor's side entrance, voices drifted through an open window. A woman's tone, sharp and cold as January wind. "You are worthless, girl. Cannot even complete the simplest task without error. Your sisters would never be so careless." A younger voice responded, so quiet Harry had to strain to hear. "I am sorry, Mother. I will fix it immediately." Sorry does not mend broken china. Sorry does not erase your constant disappointments. Sometimes I wonder if God cursed me by allowing you to survive when your brother did not. The word struck Harry like a physical blow. He moved closer, drawn by something he could not name, and peered through the grimy window into what appeared to be a morning room. A young woman stood with her back to him, head bowed. Her dress, though clean, had been mended multiple times. Dark hair fell in a simple braid down her spine. Even in submission, her posture held a quiet dignity that arrested his attention. Before her stood an older woman draped in faded elegance, her face twisted with contempt. Two younger girls in better dresses watched from a settee, their expressions ranging from indifference to cruel amusement. "Perhaps if you spent less time with your foolish books and more time learning your place, you might be of some use," the mother continued. "But no decent man would have you. You are fortunate we allow you to remain under this roof at all." The young woman raised her head slightly, and Harry caught a glimpse of her profile. Something in the set of her jaw, the way she held herself despite the verbal assault, spoke of strength rather than weakness. She did not weep or plead. She simply endured. "Go," the mother dismissed her with a wave. "Clean the stables, since you seem more suited to animals than society." "Yes, Mother." As the young woman turned toward the door, Harry caught a fuller view of her face. She was perhaps 23, with features that would have been unremarkable except for her eyes. Even from this distance, even downcast, they held depths he recognized, the look of someone who observed more than they revealed, who felt everything but showed little. She disappeared from view, and Harry found himself moving without conscious thought, circling toward the back of the property. He needed to see her again, needed to understand why this stranger's humiliation had pierced through the armor of indifference he had worn for years. He found her near the stables, alone now, her shoulders shaking slightly, but she made no sound. Even in private pain, she remained silent. Harry's chest tightened with an emotion he could not name. Anger at her treatment, curiosity about her endurance, something else, something that felt dangerously like recognition. In that moment, watching her gather herself with quiet determination before entering the stables, he knew his journey had found its purpose. He had come seeking truth. Perhaps he had found someone who needed truth as desperately as he did. The rain began again, soft and persistent. Harry pulled his collar higher and approached the main entrance, ready to offer his services as a worker in need of shelter, ready to discover what it meant to be simply a man, and perhaps to learn the name of the young woman whose silent strength had already begun to haunt him. Behind him, the fine carriage disappeared down the muddy road toward Bath, carrying with it the last visible remnants of his title. Ahead lay uncertainty, deception, and the crumbling walls of a manor where cruelty wore the mask of family. Harry knocked on the door, his heart beating with an anticipation he had not felt in years. He did not yet know her name. He did not know that in seeking his own truth he would awaken hers. He knew only that something had shifted the moment he glimpsed her through that rain-streaked window. Some meetings are written in starlight long before feet find their destined paths. Some hearts recognize each other before names are ever spoken. This was such a meeting, though neither yet understood what fate had quietly arranged in the space between a duke's disguise and a daughter's endurance. Jenny Crawford had learned to make herself small, not in body, for she stood tall enough to meet most men at eye level, but in presence. She had mastered the art of moving through rooms like morning mist, noticed only when the light caught her at certain angles. The stables smelled of hay and leather and horse sweat, scents she had come to prefer over the perfumed cruelty of the drawing room. Here, at least, no one expected her to smile while they cut her to pieces with words wrapped in maternal concern. She picked up the pitchfork with practiced efficiency, beginning the work her mother had assigned as punishment. The horses nickered softly, recognizing her gentle touch. Animals, she had discovered, possessed a honesty humans lacked. They did not pretend affection while planning your humiliation. The stable cat wound between her ankles, purring. Jenny bent to scratch behind its ears, allowing herself this small comfort before resuming her task. 23 years she had lived in this house, 23 years of being the wrong child, the one who should not have survived. Her brother Thomas had been 2 years her senior, golden and beloved, the heir her father desperately wanted. When fever took him at age 7, leaving 5-year-old Jenny behind, her mother's love had died with him. "Your brother would have been brilliant," her mother often said. "Your brother would have saved us, but we have only you." The words had shaped Jenny like water shapes stone, slowly, relentlessly, until she learned to expect nothing. Her 2 younger sisters, Catherine and Margaret, had been born after Thomas's death. They were beautiful, accomplished, everything their mother needed them to be. They would make advantageous marriages and restore the family's fading prominence. Jenny existed to serve them, to mend their dresses and arrange their hair and fade into the background during social calls, so her plainness would not diminish their shine. Except she was not plain, not truly, but believing herself so had become necessary for survival. She worked methodically, losing herself in the rhythm of labor, fork to hay, hay to stall, repeat. Her mind drifted to the book hidden beneath her mattress, a volume of poetry she had found in her late grandmother's trunk. The words spoke of love and passion and choices made freely, concepts as foreign to her as distant continents. Sometimes, in the darkest part of night, she allowed herself to imagine a different life, a place where someone might look at her and see worth, where her thoughts might matter, where she could speak without fear of mockery. But dawn always came, bringing reality with merciless clarity. The stable door creaked open. Jenny tensed, expecting her mother's sharp voice or her father's indifferent dismissal. Instead, she heard her father speaking to someone unfamiliar. "The work is hard, and the pay is merely room and board," her father was saying. "We have little use for charity cases, but the stables need tending and our man recently left for better prospects. If you can manage horses and keep your head down, you may stay. Thank you, sir." A male voice, deeper than her father's, with something refined buried beneath deliberate roughness. "I am grateful for the opportunity." Jenny remained still behind the stall wall, listening. "What did you say your name was?" her father asked. "Harry, sir. Just Harry." "Well, just Harry. The stables are your domain. There is a room above, barely fit for habitation, but it keeps the rain off. My daughter will show you around. She practically lives here anyway." Footsteps approached. Jenny straightened, brushing hay from her worn dress, trying to compose herself. When her father appeared with the stranger, she kept her eyes lowered as habit demanded. "Jenny, this is Harry. He will be handling the stables from now on. Show him where things are kept, then return to the house. Your mother wants you." "Yes, father." Her father departed without another word, leaving her alone with the newcomer. Silence stretched between them, broken only by horses shifting in their stalls. Jenny forced herself to look up, to meet the stranger's eyes as courtesy required. What she saw made her breath catch. He was tall, perhaps 27 or 28, with dark hair that needed trimming and eyes that seemed to see too much. His clothing marked him as working class, yet something in his bearing suggested otherwise. He stood with unconscious confidence, as if comfortable in his own skin, in a way Jenny had never managed. But it was his expression that undid her. He looked at her not with pity or contempt or indifference, but with genuine curiosity, as if she were a person worth studying rather than a problem to be managed. "Miss," he said softly, breaking the silence, "I am Harry Thornfield." "I apologize for the intrusion." The surname meant nothing to her, isolated as she was from society. She managed a small nod. "Jenny Crawford." "Welcome to Thornwood Manor, though I fear there is little welcoming about it." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "I have known worse." She doubted that, but did not argue. Instead, she moved toward the tack room, gesturing for him to follow. "The horses are kept here," she began, falling into the safety of practical explanation. "We have 6 currently, though 3 are quite old. They require patient handling. The feed is stored in that corner, the grooming tools there. Fresh water must be brought from the pump twice daily." He listened with careful attention, his eyes tracking not just where she pointed, but her face as she spoke. It made her self-conscious in a way she could not name. "And the room above?" he asked. She led him to the narrow stairs, acutely aware of his presence behind her. The space felt smaller with him in it, the air somehow charged. The upper room was indeed barely habitable. A narrow bed, a washstand, a single window overlooking the paddock. But it was clean, for Jenny had maintained it since the previous groom's departure. "It is not much," she said quietly. "It is more than adequate." He moved to the window, gazing out at the fading daylight. "The view is actually rather beautiful." Jenny followed his gaze. She had seen this view countless times, but tried to imagine it through fresh eyes. The rolling hills, the ancient oak marking the property boundary, the way evening light painted everything gold. "Yes," she agreed. "It is." When she turned back, she found him watching her with that same intense curiosity. Her pulse quickened inexplicably. "You care for the horses yourself?" he asked. "Someone must. They deserve better than neglect, as do many creatures in this world." Something in his tone suggested he meant more than horses. Jenny felt heat rise to her cheeks, uncertain how to respond to kindness from a stranger. "I should return to the house," she said, moving toward the stairs. "If you need anything." He stepped closer, not threatening but present in a way that made her hyper-aware of him. "Miss Crawford," he said, and her name in his voice sounded different somehow, weighted with meaning she could not decipher. "Thank you for your assistance. I hope we might speak again." Perhaps, she managed, then fled down the stairs before he could see how his simple courtesy had affected her. As she crossed the yard toward the manor, she felt his gaze on her back. It was not the cold assessment she was accustomed to, but something warmer. something that made her feel visible in a way that both frightened and thrilled her. Behind her, in the stable loft, Harry watched her go. He had expected to feel sympathy for the mistreated young woman. He had not expected this pull, this immediate recognition that whispered of fate and connection. He had come seeking truth. He had found someone who embodied it, living authentically despite being forced into shadows. The game he had started now felt more dangerous than anticipated, because already, after mere minutes in her presence, he wanted more than observation. He wanted to know everything about Jenny Crawford, and that wanting felt like the first honest thing he had experienced in years. 3 days passed before Jenny returned to the stables alone. 3 days of watching from the kitchen window as Harry moved through his tasks with an efficiency that betrayed more than simple labor experience. He handled the horses with the confidence of someone accustomed to fine breeding, yet his hands bore no gentleman's softness. She told herself her interest was merely curiosity. She told herself the flutter in her chest when she saw him meant nothing. She was a poor liar, even to herself. The morning arrived grey and heavy with promised rain. Her mother had sent her sisters to visit Lady Pemberton in the village, a social call from which Jenny was pointedly excluded. "Your presence would only diminish their prospects," her mother had said simply, as if commenting on the weather. So Jenny found herself with rare freedom, a basket of mending in hand, walking toward the stables where the light was better and the company, she admitted privately, infinitely more appealing. Harry was brushing down Dancer, the old mare who had carried Jenny through childhood. He worked with long, steady strokes, murmuring to the horse in tones too low for Jenny to distinguish words. But Dancer's ears pricked forward with pleasure, and Jenny felt an unexpected warmth at his gentleness. "Good morning," she said softly, not wanting to startle him. He turned, and the smile that crossed his face seemed entirely genuine. "Miss Crawford, good morning indeed. I was hoping you might visit." The admission caught her off guard. "Were you? The horses speak highly of you." "I thought I should learn from their wisdom." Despite herself, Jenny laughed. It was a rusty sound, unpracticed. "I doubt they have much wisdom to share beyond where the best hay is kept." On the contrary. Harry set aside the brush and moved closer, his presence filling the space between them with something electric. They know who treats them with respect, who sees them as worthy of care rather than mere tools. That is wisdom enough. Jenny's throat tightened. She set her basket down, needing something to do with her hands. "I came to mend the saddle blankets, if you do not mind my working here. I would welcome the company if you can tolerate mine." She settled onto a hay bale near the door, where the light fell strongest, pulling out needle and thread. Harry returned to his work with Dancer, but the silence between them felt comfortable rather than awkward. "How long have you worked with horses?" Jenny asked after a while, her curiosity overcoming her usual reticence. "Since I was young. My father believed that understanding horses taught patience and respect. He was right, though I did not appreciate the lessons at the time." He spoke of his father in past tense, she noticed. "And your family now?" Harry paused, his hand resting on Dancer's flank. "Gone. I have no one depending on me, which allows me the freedom to wander as work requires." "I am sorry for your loss." He looked at her then, really looked, and Jenny felt stripped bare under that gaze. "Do not be. Some losses free us to discover who we truly are beneath what others expect." The words resonated through her like a bell's tone. "Yes," she whispered, "I suppose they do." Thunder rumbled in the distance. Dancer shifted nervously, and Harry soothed her with a touch that Jenny found herself envying. To be touched with such care, such attention, the thought made her cheeks warm. "Tell me something true," Harry said suddenly. "Something you have never told anyone." Jenny's needle stilled. "Why would you ask such a thing?" "Because I suspect you have spent your life hiding your truths to survive. And I wonder what it might feel like for you to speak one aloud, to someone who would listen without judgment." The vulnerability in his request undid something in her chest. She set down her mending, meeting his eyes across the stable's dim interior. "I dream of traveling," she said quietly, "of seeing places I have only read about in books, Rome and Paris and Vienna. I dream of standing in a cathedral so vast it makes me feel small in a way that is beautiful rather than diminishing." I dream of choosing my own path, even if just for a single day." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, the confession flowing like water through a broken dam. "Everyone here tells me I am nothing, worth nothing, good for nothing. But sometimes in the dark before dawn, I imagine a life where I matter, where my thoughts and feelings are not inconveniences to be managed, but rather treasures to be valued. Is that foolish?" Harry crossed the space between them, moving with purposeful grace. He knelt before her, bringing their eyes level, close enough that she could see flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "That is not foolish," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "That is the sanest thing I have heard in years. You deserve all of those things, Jenny. Every cathedral, every choice, every moment of feeling valued exactly as you are." He had used her given name, she realized, not Miss Crawford, but Jenny, and instead of feeling improper, it felt like recognition. "You do not know me," she protested weakly. "I know enough. I know you care for neglected horses with gentle hands. I know you endure cruelty with dignity that shames those who inflict it. I know you have dreams despite every effort to crush them from you. That is more than enough to know your worth." Rain began pattering on the roof, soft at first, then building to a steady drum. The temperature dropped, and Jenny shivered. Without hesitation, Harry shrugged out of his coat and draped it around her shoulders. The garment held his warmth, his scent, something clean and masculine that made her dizzy. Their hands brushed as he settled the coat, and the contact sent electricity racing up her arm. "Thank you," she managed. He did not move away. Instead, he stayed close, his presence both thrilling and terrifying. "Tell me something true now," she said, emboldened by his earlier question. "Something you have never told anyone." Harry's jaw tightened, conflict playing across his features. Then he spoke, his words measured. "I came here, seeking something I thought I had lost. I have worn masks so long I forgot what my true face looked like. But sitting here with you, listening to your dreams, I remember. You remind me that authenticity still exists in this world." "What did you lose?" she asked softly. "The belief that genuine connection was possible, that someone might see me for what I am rather than what I possess." His words seemed to carry weight beyond their surface meaning, but Jenny did not press. She understood keeping parts of oneself hidden. She had built a life on such discretion. The rain intensified, creating a curtain of sound around them. They sat in their small circle of lamplight, two people who barely knew each other, yet recognized something essential in the other. "I should return to the house," Jenny said eventually, though she made no move to rise. "My absence will be noted." "Will you come back?" Harry asked. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I will." When she finally stood, reluctantly returning his coat, their fingers tangled briefly. The touch lasted only seconds, but it burned itself into her memory with startling clarity. She walked through the rain toward the manor, her mending forgotten in the stable. Behind her, Harry watched from the doorway, his expression a mixture of wonder and concern. He had not expected this, had not anticipated that his deception would become complicated by genuine feeling. He had thought himself clever, maintaining emotional distance while observing authenticity in others. But Jenny Crawford had shattered that distance without even trying. Her honesty called to something honest in him, something he had buried beneath duty and title. The game had changed, and Harry was no longer certain he controlled its outcome. In the manor, Jenny climbed the stairs to her small room, her heart racing with a feeling she could not name but desperately wanted to understand. For the first time in memory, tomorrow held promise rather than mere endurance. Neither of them recognized it yet, but the careful walls they had each constructed around their hearts had begun to crack, letting in dangerous, wonderful light. Jenny began stealing moments like a thief hoards jewels, an hour in the morning while her sisters slept late, 20 minutes at midday when her mother napped, the precious twilight hours when shadows made her movements difficult to track. Each stolen moment led her to the stables, to Harry. A week passed in this careful dance. They spoke of small things and large ones, their conversations weaving between the practical and the profound. Harry taught her about horse lineages and breeding, knowledge he claimed to have learned from his father. Jenny shared stories from her secret books, the poetry and philosophy she consumed in her attic room by candlelight. But it was the evenings that became sacred. On the 8th night, as darkness settled thick over Thornwood Manor, Jenny wrapped bread and cheese in cloth and slipped from the kitchen. Her mother had commanded that Harry receive only breakfast and supper, punishment for his low station. The cruelty was petty and deliberate. Jenny would not allow him to go hungry. The stable was dark, save for a single lamp burning in the loft window. She climbed the narrow stairs, her heart hammering against her ribs. She had never visited a man's private quarters before. The impropriety should have stopped her. It did not. Harry sat at the small table beneath the window, papers spread before him. He looked up as she entered, surprise flickering across his features before warming into something that made her breath catch. "Jenny, is everything well? I brought you food." She set the bundle on the table, suddenly self-conscious. "My mother's orders are deliberately insufficient." You thought to show me kindness." His voice held wonder, as if kindness were a foreign concept. "Thank you." She should have left then, should have retreated to safety and propriety. Instead, she found herself settling onto the rough wooden chair across from him. "What are you writing?" "Letters," he said, carefully gathering the papers. "To acquaintances, seeking news of work opportunities." It was not quite a lie, but Jenny sensed incompleteness in the answer. She did not press, respecting his privacy as she hoped he respected hers. Harry unwrapped the food and immediately broke the bread in half, offering her the larger portion. When she protested, he simply said, "We share this, or I do not eat at all." So they shared, the simple meal becoming communion in the lamplight's golden glow. Outside, an owl called. The horses below shifted in their stalls. The world contracted to this small room and the man across from her. "Tell me about your mother," Harry said quietly. "Why does she treat you so?" Jenny's throat tightened. "Because I lived when my brother died. Because I am not beautiful like Catherine or accomplished like Margaret. Because my very existence is a reminder of loss rather than a promise of gain. That is not your failing. That is hers. Knowing that does not ease the daily weight of it." Harry reached across the table, his hand covering hers where it rested on the worn wood. The touch was deliberate, warm, electrifying. "Jenny, listen to me. You are not less because others cannot see your value. A diamond does not lose worth because a blind man cannot perceive its brilliance." His thumb traced small circles on her skin, and she felt the caress everywhere, as if her entire body had awakened to his touch. "You speak as if you know something of being undervalued," she whispered. A shadow crossed his face. "Perhaps I know something of wearing masks, of wondering if anyone sees beyond the surface to what lies beneath." "I see you," she said simply. "I may not know your past or understand all your secrets, but I see who you are in this moment. That is enough." Something in Harry's expression shifted, became raw and vulnerable. He stood, still holding her hand, and drew her to her feet. They were inches apart in the small space, close enough that she could see his pulse beating at his throat, could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Jenny," his voice was rough, strained, "tell me to leave. Tell me this is improper and I will step away." But she did not want him to step away. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, truly valued. The propriety that had caged her suddenly seemed like prison bars she could choose to ignore. "I do not want you to leave," she breathed. His free hand rose to her face, fingers trembling slightly as they traced the line of her jaw. The touch was reverent, as if she was something precious he feared breaking. "You deserve better than this," he said. "Better than a man with nothing, better than secret meetings in lamplight. What if this is exactly what I want? What if you are what I want?" The words hung between them, brave and terrifying. Harry's eyes searched hers, looking for doubt, for hesitation. He would find none. Slowly, giving her every chance to retreat, he lowered his head. Their lips met softly, tentatively, a question asked in the universal language of desire. Jenny had never been kissed. She had read about kisses in her forbidden novels, imagined them in the abstract. Nothing had prepared her for the reality. His mouth was warm, gentle yet sure. He tasted of bread and something uniquely him, something she wanted to memorize. Her hands found his shoulders, steadying herself as the world tilted. Harry pulled back slightly, his breathing uneven. His forehead rested against hers. "We should stop," he murmured, though his hands remained on her waist. "This is dangerous." "Why?" "Because I am beginning to want things I have no right to want. Because touching you makes me forget every reason I came here. Because if I continue, I will not be able to let you go." "Then do not let me go," she said fiercely. "I have spent my entire life being let go, being forgotten and dismissed and cast aside. For once, just this once, choose to hold on." Something broke in him at her words. He kissed her again, deeper this time, his arms tightening around her as if he could anchor them both against the storm building between them. Jenny responded instinctively, her body knowing what her mind had never learned. They sank onto the narrow bed, still kissing, hands exploring with growing confidence. His fingers threaded through her hair, freeing it from its braid. Her palms traced the planes of his back through his shirt, feeling the strength beneath. When they finally drew apart, both breathless, Harry cradled her face with such tenderness that tears pricked Jenny's eyes. "Stay," he whispered. "Just a while longer. Let me hold you while the world sleeps." So she stayed, curled against his chest as he reclined against the wall, her head tucked beneath his chin. His heart beat steadily against her ear, a rhythm that felt like home. They talked in whispers as the hours crept toward midnight. He told her about cities he had seen, though he carefully avoided details that might reveal too much. She shared her dreams of becoming someone other than the forgotten daughter. When exhaustion finally claimed her, she drifted into sleep feeling safer than she ever had in her own bed. Harry held her through the dark hours, watching her peaceful face, knowing he was falling into something from which there would be no easy escape. He should tell her the truth, should reveal his title and his deception before this went further. But the words caught in his throat, trapped by fear that honesty would shatter this fragile, perfect thing they were building. So he remained silent, holding his truth as carefully as he held her, and prayed that when revelation came it would not destroy them both. Just before dawn, Jenny stirred. She rose reluctantly, pressing one last kiss to his lips before slipping from the room like a dream departing with the night. Harry watched her disappear down the stairs, his heart heavy with secrets and light with something that felt dangerously like love. The game he had started was no longer a game, and the stakes had become far higher than he ever anticipated. The nights became theirs alone. Jenny moved through daylight hours in a daze of anticipation, counting minutes until she could steal away to the stables, to Harry, to the only place where she felt truly alive. 2 weeks had passed since their first kiss, 2 weeks of whispered conversations and tangled embraces, 2 weeks of learning the geography of each other's hearts, while their bodies learned a more primal language. On this particular evening, storm clouds gathered thick and heavy, turning the sky bruised purple long before true dark. Thunder growled in the distance like a warning Jenny chose to ignore. She found Harry in the paddock, securing the horses for the coming weather. Rain had already begun, light drops that promised deluge. His shirt clung to his shoulders, and Jenny felt her mouth go dry at the sight. He looked up as she approached, and the smile that broke across his face made her feel powerful in a way she had never experienced. "You should be inside," he called over the rising wind. "This storm will be fierce." "So should you," she countered, reaching him breathless. "Come to the loft, please." They ran together through the thickening rain, their hands clasped, laughing like children despite the chaos around them. By the time they reached the loft, both were soaked through, water dripping from hair and clothes. Harry grabbed a blanket from his bed, wrapping it around Jenny's shoulders. But she pulled him close instead, sharing the warmth, sharing the space beneath the wool. "You are trembling," he murmured, his hands rubbing her arms through the blanket. "Not from cold," she admitted. His eyes darkened with understanding. "Jenny, we cannot." "Why not?" She looked up at him fiercely. "Why can we not choose this? Choose each other? The world has told me my entire life that I deserve nothing, that I am nothing. But with you, I feel everything. Do not tell me I cannot have this too." Lightning flashed, illuminating his conflicted expression. The truth warred in his eyes, secrets fighting to break free. But desire won, as it often does when hearts have already surrendered. "If we do this," he said quietly, his forehead touching hers, "there is no returning to what we were before. Everything changes. Perhaps everything needs to change." He kissed her then, and it was different from their previous kisses. This held purpose, promise, possession. His hands cradled her face as if she were infinitely precious, infinitely fragile. Jenny responded with equal fervor, her fingers working at the buttons of his wet shirt. He helped her, then reached for the fastenings of her dress with hands that shook slightly. "Are you certain?" he asked one final time, even as his lips traced the column of her throat. "Tell me to stop and I will. I swear it." "I have never been more certain of anything," she breathed. They undressed each other slowly, between kisses and caresses, the storm outside matching the one building inside. When skin finally met skin, Jenny gasped at the sensation. Harry groaned, pulling her closer, as if he could somehow merge their bodies into one being. He laid her on the bed with such gentleness that tears sprang to her eyes. Every touch communicated reverence. His fingers traced patterns on her skin, learning her, memorizing her. His mouth followed where his hands led, and Jenny discovered that her body held capacities for pleasure she had never imagined. "You are beautiful," he whispered against her shoulder. "So unbearably beautiful." She would have argued, would have cited every criticism ever thrown at her, but the way he looked at her silenced all doubt. In his eyes, she was a goddess. In his arms, she was chosen. When he finally moved over her, his weight settling between her thighs, he paused. His eyes locked with hers in the lamplight. "I will be gentle," he promised. "Tell me if anything hurts." She nodded, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her throat. As he joined their bodies, moving slowly, carefully, there was pain but also a rightness that transcended physical sensation. This was belonging. This was being seen and choosing to be vulnerable anyway. Harry kissed away the single tear that escaped down her temple. He moved with exquisite care, whispering endearments against her skin, his breathing ragged with restraint. Jenny held him close, her hands exploring the muscles of his back, feeling them flex with each careful thrust. The pain faded, replaced by building pleasure that spiraled through her like summer heat. She moved with him instinctively, their bodies finding rhythm as naturally as their hearts had found connection. When release came, it was not the explosive crescendo of novels, but rather a sweet spreading warmth that left her feeling complete in a way she had never known possible. Harry followed moments later, her name a prayer on his lips as he shuddered against her. Afterward they lay tangled together, the blanket pulled over their cooling bodies. Rain hammered the roof, thunder shook the walls, but inside their small sanctuary, peace reigned. Harry propped himself on one elbow, gazing down at her with such tenderness that Jenny's heart ached. "I love you," he said simply. "I know I have no right, know I am not worthy, but I love you more than I have ever loved anything in this world." She touched his face, tracing the strong line of his jaw. "You are worthy. And I love you. Whatever comes, whatever this world tries to tell us, I love you." He kissed her softly, then gathered her against his chest. She fit perfectly in the curve of his body, as if they had been designed specifically for this joining. "Tell me your dreams again," he murmured into her hair. "All of them. Every cathedral you wish to see, every place you long to visit. Tell me everything." So she did, her voice soft in the darkness. She spoke of Venice and its canals, of Scottish highlands and Greek islands. She painted pictures with words of a life beyond Thornwood Manor, beyond her mother's cruelty and her father's indifference. And Harry listened, his arms tightening around her, making silent promises he prayed he could keep. Because he would give her everything she dreamed of, he would show her the world, he would spend his life ensuring she never felt invisible again. But first, he would have to tell her the truth. And that truth terrified him more than any storm ever could. As Jenny's breathing evened into sleep, Harry stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. He had crossed a line tonight that could never be uncrossed. He had taken her innocence while living a lie. The guilt threatened to choke him. Yet how could he regret something that felt so profoundly right? Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow he would find the courage to reveal everything. Tomorrow he would risk losing her to save what remained of his honor. But tonight, for these few sacred hours, he would simply hold her. He would memorize the weight of her in his arms, the sound of her breathing, the way she murmured his name even in sleep. Tonight, he would let himself believe that love could conquer secrets and lies. Outside, the storm raged on, unaware that in a simple loft above a crumbling stable, two hearts had pledged themselves to each other against all reason and propriety. And in the morning, everything would begin to unravel. If Jenny's courage to choose love despite a lifetime of rejection has touched your heart, share this story with someone who needs to remember their own worth. And if you believe that true love sees beyond masks and titles, leave a comment telling us where in the world you are listening from. Your presence here matters, just as Jenny learned she matters. We would love to know you are part of this journey. Morning came too quickly, as it always does after nights that hold magic. Jenny woke in Harry's arms, the early light filtering through the single window, painting everything in shades of rose and gold. She should have felt shame. Society would demand it, but lying there, listening to Harry's steady heartbeat beneath her ear, she felt only a fierce, defiant joy. His eyes opened as she stirred, and the smile that crossed his face held such unguarded happiness that her chest tightened. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice still rough with sleep. "Good morning." He kissed her forehead, then reluctantly released her. "You should return before you are missed." "I know." But she made no move to leave, stealing a few more precious moments. When she finally dressed and prepared to go, Harry caught her hand. "Wait. I have something for you." He moved to a small trunk in the corner, one she had never seen opened. From within, he withdrew a package wrapped in brown paper and tied with simple string. "I made this," he said, almost shyly. "It is not much, but I wanted you to have something that was yours alone." Jenny unwrapped the package with trembling fingers. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with a delicate pattern of flowers and vines. The craftsmanship was exquisite, far beyond what a simple, stable hand should possess. "Harry," she breathed, "this is beautiful. Open it." She did, and tears immediately sprang to her eyes. On the first page, in elegant script, he had written, "For Jenny, who taught me that dreams matter and courage comes in quiet forms. May these pages hold every thought, every dream, every cathedral you wish to see. You deserve to have your voice heard, even if only by yourself. You matter. Never forget that you matter." Below the inscription, he had sketched a small drawing, a girl standing before a vast cathedral, her arms spread wide as if embracing the world. "How did you know?" she whispered, clutching the journal to her chest. "I told you I dreamed of cathedrals, but you drew exactly what I see in my mind when I close my eyes, because I listen when you speak, because every word you say matters to me." Jenny set the journal down carefully and threw her arms around him, kissing him with all the love and gratitude flooding her heart. The kiss deepened quickly, hands seeking skin, breath quickening. Harry groaned against her mouth. "You must go, or I will keep you here all day. Propriety be damned." "Let them damn propriety," she said fiercely. "I am tired of living for other people's rules." But she knew he was right. With great reluctance, she gathered the journal and slipped from the loft, the precious gift pressed against her heart. Throughout the day, she touched it constantly, hidden in her pocket. Each time her mother's sharp words cut into her, each time her sisters laughed at her expense, she would press her hand against the journal and remember Harry's inscription. "You matter." The words became a talisman against the cruelty that had shaped her life. That evening, as shadows lengthened across the grounds, Jenny found herself in the garden, the journal open on her lap. She had begun to write, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. Words poured from her pen, thoughts and feelings she had suppressed for years. She wrote about her mother's coldness and her father's absence. She wrote about the brother she barely remembered, but whose death had defined her existence. She wrote about Harry, about the way he looked at her as if she held the sun in her hands. "Miss Crawford." The voice startled her. She looked up to find her father standing on the garden path, his expression unreadable in the fading light. "Father." She closed the journal quickly. He approached, his steps slow. "I wish to speak with you." Jenny's stomach knotted. Conversations with her father were rare and usually preceded bad news. "Your mother and I have been discussing your situation," he began, not meeting her eyes. "You are 3 and 20 now, old enough that your unmarried state reflects poorly on the family. I did not realize my presence was so burdensome. Do not be impertinent." He frowned. "We have received an offer. Mr. Edmund Blackwood has expressed interest in taking you as his wife." Jenny's blood ran cold. She knew of Blackwood, a merchant twice her age, wealthy but coarse, known for his cruelty to servants and his first wife, who had died under suspicious circumstances. "I cannot marry him," she said, her voice shaking. "You can and you will. He offers a substantial sum that will settle our debts and provide dowries for your sisters. Your duty is to your family." "My duty?" Jenny stood, anger burning away fear. "What duty have you ever shown me? What family claims me as their own except to sell me like livestock?" Her father's face darkened. "You forget yourself, girl. You will do as you are told. The arrangements are already made. You will meet Mr. Blackwood tomorrow evening, and the betrothal will be announced within the week." "No." The word came out strong, clear. "I will not. You have no choice in this matter. Your mother has decided. Then mother has decided alone. I will not marry Edmund Blackwood. I would rather die." Her father raised his hand as if to strike her, something he had never done before. Jenny flinched but held her ground, the journal clutched against her chest like a shield. The blow never came. Instead, her father lowered his hand, his expression twisted with something that might have been regret in a better man. "You will stay in your room until you come to your senses," he said coldly. "Food will be brought to you. You will not leave, you will not communicate with anyone, and you will certainly not consort with that stable hand I have seen you sneaking to visit." Jenny's breath caught. "You knew. I know everything that happens on my property. And I know what happens between a man and a woman when they spend time alone. Your virtue, such as it was, is likely compromised. All the more reason to marry quickly and quietly." He turned to leave, then paused. "You think your stable hand cares for you? Men like him use girls like you, then disappear when consequences arise. At least Blackwood will give you a home and a name." "Harry is worth 10 of Edmund Blackwood," Jenny said quietly. "He sees me. He values me. Something you have never done." Her father laughed, a bitter sound. "He sees an easy conquest, nothing more. You are a fool if you believe otherwise." He left her standing in the garden, the journal still pressed to her heart, tears streaming down her face. But beneath the tears, determination grew. She would not marry Blackwood. She would not be sold. She would not surrender the first real love she had ever known without a fight. As darkness claimed the garden, Jenny made her decision. She would go to Harry tonight, despite her father's orders. She would tell him everything. And together, they would find a way to escape this trap closing around them. She did not know that Harry's secrets would complicate everything. She did not know that by morning, her entire world would shift on its axis. She knew only that love had given her courage she never possessed before. And courage, she was learning, was sometimes the only weapon the powerless possessed. The journal in her hands felt heavier now, weighted with possibility and defiance. On its pages she had written her truth. Soon she would have to live it, whatever the cost. Jenny waited until the house fell silent. Her door had been locked from the outside, but years of being unwanted had taught her resourcefulness. The window overlooked the kitchen roof, and from there, a sturdy trellis offered passage to the ground. She had climbed it countless times as a child, seeking escape from her mother's coldness. Tonight, she climbed it, seeking salvation. The journal tucked safely in her pocket, she moved through darkness toward the stables. Every shadow felt threatening, every sound a potential discovery. But fear could not match the desperate need to reach Harry. The loft window glowed with lamplight. She climbed the stairs quickly, her heart hammering. Harry sat at his table, head in his hands, looking utterly defeated. He looked up sharply as she entered, shock and relief warring on his face. "Jenny! My God, how did you—" She crossed to him in 3 strides and kissed him with desperate intensity, trying to convey everything she could not yet put into words. He responded immediately, standing and pulling her close, his arms wrapping around her as if she might disappear. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Harry cupped her face in his hands. "Tell me what happened. I heard raised voices earlier. Your father came to the stables and informed me my services would no longer be required after tomorrow. They want to marry me off," Jenny said, her voice breaking, "to Edmund Blackwood, a cruel man, old enough to be my father. They say it will settle debts and secure my sister's futures. No." The word came out fierce, absolute. "I will not allow it. You cannot stop it. You are a stable hand with no money and no influence. What power do you have against my father's arrangements?" Harry's jaw clenched, conflict raging in his eyes. "Jenny, there is something I must tell you, something I should have revealed long ago." "Later," she interrupted. "Whatever it is, tell me later. Right now, I need you. I need to feel chosen one more time before they take even that from me." She kissed him again, her hands working at his shirt buttons with trembling fingers. Harry groaned against her mouth. "Jenny, wait. We should talk first." "No more talking, no more waiting. Please, Harry, make me forget everything but this, but us." Something broke in him at her plea. He lifted her into his arms and carried her to the bed, laying her down with exquisite gentleness. This time, there was no hesitation, no careful questioning. They both knew what they wanted, what they needed. He undressed her slowly, kissing each newly revealed inch of skin. She arched into his touch, her body remembering what her mind had not yet fully understood, that they fit together perfectly, that his hands on her skin felt like coming home. When he entered her, it was different from their first joining. Where that had been tender discovery, this was claiming, possessing, defying the world that sought to separate them. "You are mine," he whispered fiercely against her throat. "Mine, Jenny, no matter what comes, no matter what you learn. You are mine and I am yours." "Always," she gasped, moving with him, their rhythm building towards something transcendent. "Always yours." Their coupling was intense, almost desperate, fueled by love and fear and defiance. Harry drove into her with controlled passion, and Jenny met him thrust for thrust, her nails digging into his shoulders, her legs wrapped tight around his waist. When release came, it crashed over them simultaneously, her name torn from his lips as she shattered beneath him. They clung to each other through the aftershocks, two souls trying to merge into one to avoid inevitable separation. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts still racing, skin damp with exertion. Harry pulled the blanket over them and gathered her close, his lips pressing against her hair. "I will not let them take you," he said quietly. "I swear it on everything I hold sacred. You will not marry Edmund Blackwood." "How can you prevent it?" Jenny asked, exhaustion and hopelessness creeping into her voice. "You said yourself you have nothing." "We have nothing but this." Harry was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of decision. "There is something you need to understand about me, something that changes everything." Jenny propped herself on one elbow, looking down at him in the lamplight. "What do you mean?" "My name is Harry Thornfield. That much is true. But I am not simply a stable hand seeking work." He took a breath, and Jenny felt the world tilt on its axis. "I am the 7th Duke of Ashworth. I came here in disguise, seeking to discover if genuine love still existed in a world where every woman saw only my title and fortune. I wanted to be chosen for myself, not for what I could provide." Jenny pulled away as if burned, clutching the blanket to her chest. Her mind struggled to process his words. "Duke? You are a duke?" "Yes." So everything was a lie. Her voice came out flat, dead. "This was all some game to you, some aristocratic experiment." "No." Harry sat up, reaching for her, but she flinched away. "Jenny, please listen. The disguise was a lie, yes. But everything I felt, everything between us, that was real, that is real. How can I believe anything you say now?" Tears streamed down her face. "I gave you everything. My heart, my body, my trust. And you were pretending the entire time. I was not pretending about loving you. That is the truest thing I have ever felt. You let me believe you were poor, powerless. You listened to me dream about cathedrals and travel while knowing you could give me those things with a snap of your fingers. She laughed bitterly. And I thought you understood what it meant to be invisible, but you chose invisibility. I have had it forced upon me my entire life. Harry's face crumpled with anguish. You are right. I was wrong to deceive you. But Jenny, please understand. Understand what? That wealthy men play games with poor girls' hearts for entertainment? That I was foolish enough to believe someone could actually love me? I do love you. God help me, I love you more than anything in this world. Jenny climbed from the bed, dressing with shaking hands. If you loved me, you would have trusted me with the truth. I wanted to tell you so many times. I tried tonight. Not soon enough. She moved toward the door, her heart shattering with each step. You said I mattered, that my voice mattered, but you never gave me the choice to know who you really were. Where are you going? Back to my locked room. Back to my reality. At least there, I know exactly where I stand. Jenny, please, do not leave like this. She paused at the top of the stairs, looking back at him. He stood bare-chested and desperate, this man she loved who was also a stranger. Tomorrow my father intends to send you away and present me to Edmund Blackwood. Perhaps you should let him. Perhaps we were never meant to be anything more than a beautiful mistake. You do not mean that. Do I not? She descended the stairs before he could see her completely break down. Behind her she heard him call her name, anguished and broken, but she did not turn back, could not turn back, because if she looked at him again, she would forgive him. And she needed to hold on to her anger, needed it to protect what remained of her shattered heart. She climbed back through her window as dawn painted the sky pink and gold. In her pocket, the journal he had made her seemed to burn against her skin. You matter, he had written. But mattering, she had learned tonight, was not the same as being trusted with truth. Morning brought no mercy. Jenny woke to her mother's voice outside her locked door, sharp and commanding. You will bathe and dress appropriately. Mr. Blackwood arrives at 4 o'clock. You will be presentable, cordial, and grateful for his interest. Do you understand? Jenny said nothing, staring at the ceiling with hollow eyes. She had not slept. How could she, when her heart lay in pieces across the stable loft floor? Your silence changes nothing, her mother continued. Catherine will bring you breakfast and suitable clothing. You will comply or you will be removed from this house with nothing but the clothes on your back. The footsteps retreated. Jenny closed her eyes, trying to summon the defiance she had felt last night. But betrayal had drained her fight, leaving only exhaustion. An hour later, Catherine entered with a tray and a dress of pale blue silk, far finer than anything Jenny had ever worn. Mother says you are finally to be useful, her younger sister said, setting down the items without meeting Jenny's eyes. Mr. Blackwood is very wealthy. Perhaps you are fortunate after all. Fortunate to be sold like cattle? Jenny asked bitterly. Catherine flushed. Better than dying an old maid in the attic. At least this way you serve some purpose. After Catherine left, Jenny forced herself to eat, to bathe, to dress in the silk that felt like a costume for a play she never auditioned for. She looked at herself in the small mirror and barely recognized the hollow-eyed woman staring back. The journal sat on her bedside table. She picked it up, running her fingers over the embossed cover. Despite everything, despite his lies, the gift remained precious, because whatever his name or title, the man who had made this for her had seen her soul. That was what made his deception cut so deeply. Afternoon crept toward 4 o'clock with agonizing slowness. Jenny sat in her room waiting for the summons, her mind replaying every moment with Harry. Had any of it been real? Or had she simply been a diversion for a bored aristocrat? No, she could not believe that. The way he had looked at her, touched her, held her through the night, that could not be fabricated. Could it? At 3:30, commotion erupted downstairs. Raised voices, her father's angry shouts, her mother's shrill protests. Jenny moved to her door, pressing her ear against the wood. You will leave this property immediately, her father bellowed, not without speaking to her. Harry's voice, commanding in a way she had never heard. "Where is she?" "That is no concern of yours, stable hand. You have been dismissed. I am not a stable hand." Harry's tone shifted, became colder, more authoritative. "I am Harry Thornfield, 7th Duke of Ashworth, and I will speak with Miss Crawford. Now." Silence fell like a thunderclap. Then her mother's voice, suddenly servile. "Your Grace, we had no idea. Surely there has been some misunderstanding. If you had only informed us of your identity, I chose not to reveal myself for reasons that no longer matter." Harry cut through her obsequiousness like a blade. "Where is Jenny?" More voices joined the fray, her sisters gasping, her father sputtering explanations, and through it all, Harry's unwavering demand to see her. Footsteps approached her door. The lock clicked. Her mother appeared, her expression a mask of false warmth that made Jenny's stomach turn. "Jenny, darling, the Duke of Ashworth wishes to speak with you. Come down immediately and make yourself presentable." "I am not coming down." Jenny surprised herself with the firmness in her voice. "Do not be foolish, girl. A duke, I do not care if he is the king himself. I have nothing to say to him." Her mother's mask slipped. "You will do as you are told, or what? You will lock me in my room, sell me to the highest bidder. Oh wait, you are already doing both those things." Her mother raised her hand, but before she could strike, Harry appeared at the top of the stairs. "Touch her, and I will ensure you never receive another invitation to any respectable house in England," he said quietly. But the threat in his voice was unmistakable. "Your Grace," her mother stammered, retreating. "I was merely—" "Leave us, now." The command brooked no argument. Her mother fled down the stairs, leaving Jenny alone with Harry in the narrow hallway. He looked different now. The working man's clothes remained, but something in his bearing had changed. He stood with the unconscious authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed, to commanding rooms and situations. This was the Duke, not the stable hand. It made her heart ache in new ways. "Jenny, please, we need to talk. There is nothing to discuss. You revealed your truth. I revealed my feelings about your deception. The matter is settled. The matter is far from settled." He moved closer, and she saw that he looked as haggard as she felt, his eyes shadowed with sleepless grief. "I let you leave last night believing the worst of me. I cannot let that stand. What you let or do not let is irrelevant. I am my father's property until I become Blackwood's wife. You may be a duke, but you have no claim on me." Harry's jaw clenched. "Edmund Blackwood will never have you. You cannot stop a legal arrangement between my father and—" "I can when I offer a better alternative." Harry reached into his coat and withdrew an envelope. "I have purchased your father's debts, all of them. The manor, the land, everything he owes. It all belongs to me now." Jenny stared at him, comprehension dawning slowly. "You bought me? Like he was selling me?" "No, I bought his power over you." "There is a difference, is there?" She laughed bitterly. "Instead of being sold to Blackwood, I'm now beholden to you." "How is that freedom?" "Because I am not requiring anything in return." Harry held out the envelope. "These are your father's debt papers. I'm giving them to you. You decide what happens to this family, to this property. You hold the power now. She did not take the papers. Why would you do this? Because I love you. Because you deserve the choice I denied you before. Because if I cannot have your forgiveness, at least I can give you your freedom." Before Jenny could respond, another commotion rose from downstairs. A carriage had arrived. Through the window, she saw a portly man in expensive clothes descending, Edmund Blackwood. Her father's voice drifted up. "Mr. Blackwood, welcome. I am afraid there has been a slight complication, but nothing that cannot be—" "There is no complication," Harry called down, moving to the stairs. "Miss Crawford will not be marrying you or anyone else today." Blackwood's face purpled with rage. "Who the devil are you to interfere? I am the Duke of Ashworth, and the lady is under my protection." He descended the stairs with Jenny following, drawn by something she could not name. In the foyer, her entire family stood frozen, watching the scene unfold. "Your protection?" Blackwood sneered. "Does the Duke make a habit of protecting soiled goods? I was informed the girl might be compromised. but I was willing to overlook. Harry moved faster than anyone anticipated. His fist connected with Blackwood's jaw, sending the older man sprawling. Speak of her that way again, and a broken jaw will be the least of your concerns. Harry stood over him, every inch the powerful aristocrat. Leave this house. Now. Blackwood scrambled to his feet and fled, his dignity in tatters. In the ringing silence that followed, Harry turned to Jenny's father. You will not arrange her marriage. You will not sell her. You will not use her to settle your failures. Is that clear? Her father could only nod, reduced to insignificance in the face of true power. Harry turned back to Jenny, his expression softening. The choice is yours. Stay here with the papers I have given you. Return to London with me where you can decide your future without pressure. Or walk away from all of us and forge your own path. Whatever you choose, you are free. Jenny looked at the envelope in his outstretched hand. Then at her family, seeing them truly for the first time, small, cruel people who had shaped her pain. Then she looked at Harry, the man who had lied but who now offered truth, who had deceived but now gave power, who loved her enough to let her go. She took the envelope, but she did not walk away. Instead, she met his eyes and spoke words that would change everything. Ask me properly. Harry stared at her, confusion and hope warring on his face. Ask you what? Jenny stepped closer, her heart hammering but her voice steady. You know what? Around them, her family stood frozen, witnesses to a moment that belonged only to Jenny and Harry. She saw her mother's face pale with understanding, her father's confusion slowly morphing into shock. Harry's throat worked as he swallowed. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for hers. Jenny Crawford, he began, his voice rough with emotion. I came to this place seeking truth and found you instead. I lied about my name and station, but everything else was real. Every word I spoke to you in the darkness, every touch, every moment we shared. He sank to one knee before her, and gasps echoed through the foyer. A duke kneeling before a woman the world considered nobody. I love you, he continued, his eyes never leaving hers. Not because you are convenient or because you serve my purposes. I love you because you showed me what courage looks like when it has no armor, because you dream of cathedrals and deserve to see them all, because when I hold you, I remember what it means to be simply a man rather than a title. Tears streamed down Jenny's face, but she did not wipe them away. I am asking you to marry me, not because I have bought your freedom or because I can give you comfort. I'm asking because my life without you is no life at all. I'm asking because you make me want to be worthy of the man you believed I was. He pulled a ring from his pocket, a simple band of gold set with a single perfect sapphire. This was my grandmother's. She married for love when society demanded she marry for advantage. She told me once that real love requires vulnerability, not perfection. She was right. Jenny looked down at him, this powerful man making himself powerless before her. She thought of the stable hand who had listened to her dreams. She thought of the duke who had returned to give her choice, and she realized they were the same person. Flawed, complicated, but fundamentally good. You hurt me, she said quietly. When you revealed your deception, it felt like everything we shared was built on lies. I know, and I am sorry. I was a coward who hid behind disguise rather than risk being rejected for who I truly am. But then, you came back. You bought my freedom without demanding anything in return. You gave me power when everyone else has spent their lives taking it from me. She knelt before him, bringing them to eye level, her hands covering his. You asked me to tell you something true in the stables, do you remember? I told you I dreamed of mattering, of being chosen, of having my voice heard. I remember. You have given me all those things. Not the Duke, you. The man who made me a journal because he listened when I spoke. The man who held me through the night and made me feel safe for the first time in my life. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you. Not because you are a duke, not because you can give me cathedrals and freedom, but because I love you. The man who pretended to be poor taught me what it means to be rich in the ways that matter. Harry's breath shuddered out. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted of salt and redemption. Around them, her family erupted into chaos. Her mother's protests, her sister's shocked exclamations, her father's sputtering objections. Harry stood, bringing Jenny with him, his arm secure around her waist. He faced her father with cold authority. "I will be taking Miss Crawford with me today. Her belongings will be sent to my London residence. You will not contact her unless she wishes it. You will not use her name to advance your social standing. And you will think very carefully about how you treat the daughters you have left, because I will be watching." Her father opened his mouth to argue, but Harry's expression silenced him. Jenny turned to her mother, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time, not as an intimidating force, but as a bitter woman who had allowed loss to poison love. "I forgive you," Jenny said quietly. "Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your cruelty into my future. I hope someday you find peace with the choices you made." Her mother's face crumpled, but Jenny did not stay to witness the breakdown. She had given enough of her life to this woman's pain. To her sisters, she said simply, "You have each other. Try to be kinder to one another than you were to me." Catherine reached out, tears in her eyes. "Jenny, I am sorry. We did not understand, I know. But understanding often comes too late." She turned to Harry. "I am ready to leave now. Do you need to pack anything?" Jenny looked down at the journal still clutched in her free hand. "I have everything I need." Harry led her to the carriage waiting outside, not the simple conveyance he had arrived in, but an elegant vehicle bearing the Ashworth crest. A footman opened the door, and Jenny stepped into luxury she had only imagined. As the carriage pulled away from Thornwood Manor, she watched the crumbling facade recede. She felt no sadness, no regret, only relief and a growing excitement for what lay ahead. Harry pulled her close, and she settled against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To London first," he said, pressing a kiss to her hair. "Then anywhere you wish. Paris, Rome, Vienna, every cathedral you dreamed of seeing, every place you longed to visit. And after, when we have seen the world, then we return home, not to Thornwood but to Ashworth House, and we build a life together, a real one, without masks or pretenses." Jenny tilted her face up to his. "Tell me about Ashworth House." So he did. He described rolling estates and ancient forests, rooms filled with books and galleries hung with art. He told her about the village nearby where tenants lived who would be her people to care for. He painted pictures with words of a life so different from what she had known that it seemed like fantasy, but it was not fantasy. It was her future, real and solid and waiting. "Will your friends accept me?" she asked, suddenly anxious. "A nobody from a crumbling manor married to a duke?" Harry tilted her chin up, his eyes fierce. "You are not nobody. You never were. Anyone who cannot see your worth is not worth knowing. What about society? The scandal? Let them talk. I have spent my life living for society's approval. I am done with that. You are my society now." They travelled through the afternoon, talking and kissing and planning. As evening fell, Harry pointed out the window. "Look." In the distance, London spread before them, lights beginning to twinkle as dusk claimed the sky. Jenny pressed her face to the glass, drinking in the sight of the city she had only read about. "It is beautiful," she breathed. "This is just the beginning," Harry promised. "Tomorrow I will take you to Westminster Abbey. You wanted to stand in a cathedral so vast it makes you feel small in a beautiful way. We will start there." Jenny looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the future rushing toward her faster than the carriage wheels could turn. She had been the forgotten daughter, the rejected child, the invisible girl. But invisibility had been a chrysalis, not a cage. And now, emerging into light and love and choice, she discovered what she had always secretly suspected. She had never been nothing. She had simply been waiting for someone who could truly see. And Harry saw her, all of her, the broken pieces and the beautiful dreams, the scars and the strength. He saw her and chose her and loved her. That was more than enough. That was everything. 6 months had passed since the carriage pulled away from Thornwood Manor. 6 months that felt like both a lifetime and the blink of an eye. Jenny stood at the window of Ashworth House, one hand resting on the gentle swell of her belly, watching Harry ride across the estate with his steward. Even from this distance she could identify him by the set of his shoulders, the confident ease with which he sat his horse. Her husband. The word still sent warmth flooding through her chest. The wedding had been small by aristocratic standards, but perfect in every way that mattered. They had married in the chapel at Ashworth, with only a handful of Harry's closest friends in attendance. Jenny had worn a gown of ivory silk, simple and elegant, with orange blossoms woven through her dark hair. When Harry had seen her walking down the aisle, tears had gathered in his eyes. She had never felt more beautiful than in that moment, reflected in his gaze. The wedding night had been tender and passionate, a continuation of what they had begun in the stable loft, but elevated by the knowledge that they belonged to each other fully, legally, eternally. He had made love to her with exquisite care, whispering promises against her skin about the future they would build together. And what a future it had been. True to his word, Harry had taken her to see cathedrals. They had stood together in Westminster Abbey, where she had tilted her head back to stare at the vaulted ceiling, and felt exactly the beautiful smallness she had always imagined. They had travelled to Paris, where they wandered Notre Dame hand in hand, and to Rome, where she wept at the magnificence of St. Peter's Basilica. He had given her the world she dreamed of, but more importantly, he had given her himself. The real Harry, stripped of pretense and title, just a man who loved his wife with fierce devotion. Ashworth House had become home faster than Jenny expected. The staff, initially uncertain about their new duchess, had quickly grown to love her. She treated them with respect and kindness, remembered their names and their families, asked about their lives as if they mattered, because to her, they did. She understood what it meant to be invisible, and she refused to inflict that pain on anyone else. The tenants on the estate had welcomed her warmly as well. She had started a small school in the village for children whose parents could not afford education. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she taught them to read and write, watching their faces light up with the magic of words, just as hers once had. Harry's friends had accepted her without reservation. They saw what he saw, not her lack of pedigree, but her quick mind, her gentle humour, her genuine warmth. Lady Thornton had become a particular friend, a widow of independent means who admired Jenny's refusal to conform to society's more ridiculous expectations. Not everyone approved, of course. Some matrons whispered behind their fans about the Duke of Ashworth marrying beneath his station. Some called her an opportunist who had trapped him with rustic charms. Let them talk, Harry always said. Their opinions mean nothing to me. And gradually the gossip faded. When people saw how Harry looked at his wife, how she bloomed under his love, even the harshest critics found their tongues stilled. True love, it seemed, could soften even the cruelest hearts. The door opened, and Harry entered, still in his riding clothes, his hair wind-blown, his face transformed when he saw her standing at the window. "There you are," he said, crossing to her and pulling her into his arms. "I missed you." "You were only gone 2 hours," she laughed, leaning into his embrace. 2 hours too long." He placed his hand over hers on her belly. "How is our little one today?" "Active. I think we are raising an acrobat. Like their mother, climbing down trellises and defying impossible odds." Jenny tilted her face up to his. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing me?" "Never." His answer came swift and sure. "Not for a single moment. You are the best decision I ever made. Even though I brought no dowry, no connections, no advantage, you brought yourself. That is advantage enough for 10 lifetimes." He kissed her softly, and she felt the familiar flutter in her chest that his touch always inspired. 6 months of marriage had not dulled their passion or their connection. If anything, it had deepened. "I received a letter today," Jenny said quietly. "From Catherine." Harry tensed. What did she want? To apologize, to tell me that Mother has taken ill and asks for me. Jenny felt Harry's arms tighten protectively. "You do not have to go. You owe them nothing, I know. But I think I want to. Not for them, but for me. To close that chapter completely. Then I will go with you," he said firmly. "You will not face them alone." 3 days later, they returned to Thornwood Manor. The property looked even more dilapidated than Jenny remembered. Without the pressure of debts, Harry had quietly forgiven them all. Her father had apparently done nothing to maintain the estate. Her mother lay in her bed, pale and diminished. The sharp woman who had ruled with cruelty now seemed small and fragile. When she saw Jenny enter, tears spilled down her weathered cheeks. "I am sorry," she whispered, "for everything, for blaming you for Thomas, for treating you as less than human. I was wrong." Jenny sat beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. "I forgave you already, but I needed to hear you say it." Her mother gripped her fingers weakly. "You look happy. You look loved. I am both those things. I wasted so much time on bitterness. I should have loved you. I should have seen you. You could not give what grief had taken from you. I understand that now." When they left Thornwood the next day, Jenny felt lighter. She had said goodbye to the girl who once lived there, the invisible daughter who dreamed of escape. That girl had found her freedom, her love, her voice. Now, as spring painted the English countryside in shades of green and gold, Jenny sat in the garden at Ashworth House, her journal open on her lap. She wrote almost daily now, filling pages with thoughts and observations, poems and stories. Harry found her there as afternoon shadows lengthened. He settled beside her on the bench, pulling her against his side. "What are you writing today?" Jenny smiled, closing the journal. "A story about a girl who thought she was invisible until someone taught her to see herself." "Sounds familiar," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. "It has a happy ending," she added. "The girl discovers she was never invisible at all. She was simply waiting for the right person to recognize her light. And did she find him? She did. And he gave her the world, but more importantly, he gave her the courage to claim it." Harry turned her face to his eyes shining with the love that had transformed them both. "You always had that courage, Jenny. I simply held up a mirror so you could see it." As the sun set over Ashworth, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Jenny leaned into her husband's embrace and felt profound gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. She had been rejected, forgotten, cast aside. She had believed the lies that others told about her worth. But love, real, honest, transformative love, had rewritten her story. It had taken the broken pieces and made them into something beautiful. It had shown her that being seen was not about being perfect, but about being authentically, courageously, herself. 3 months later, Jenny gave birth to a daughter with dark hair and eyes that held both her mother's strength and her father's gentleness. They named her Grace, for the grace they had both been given when love found them in the most unlikely place. And when Grace grew old enough to understand, Jenny would tell her the story of a duke who pretended to be poor and a forgotten daughter who taught him what richness truly meant. She would tell her that love requires vulnerability, that true seeing goes beyond surfaces, and that sometimes the people the world overlooks hold the most extraordinary light. But most of all, she would tell her daughter this: "You matter, your voice matters, your dreams matter. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." Because Jenny had learned that lesson in a stable loft, in the arms of a man who saw her when no one else would. And it had changed everything. Sometimes the most powerful transformations begin in the quietest moments. Jenny's story reminds us that being truly seen, not for what we can provide, but for who we are, is one of life's greatest gifts. Love did not save her. It revealed the strength she always possessed. And perhaps that is what real love does. It does not complete us, but shows us we were always whole. What would change in your life if you allowed yourself to be truly seen? If this story touched your heart, we would be honored if you would leave a like. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of love, courage, and transformation. Please subscribe to join us for more journeys from invisible to unforgettable. And we would love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Drop a comment with your location. Knowing you are there on the other side of these words makes every story more meaningful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Until the next story, may you always remember you matter exactly as you are.